So this segment has me wanting to do a high V. For decades, there has been debate over whether cheer is an actual sport and participants are actually athletes. And that has me throwing daggers. Okay, pro cheer requires intense physical strength, agility, and the ability to perfect moves in unison. When cheerleaders move from the sidelines and actually compete, you can't deny they're athletes. You can see it all unfold this weekend at the inaugural Pro Cheer League match at the Toyota Center. Gabi Butler from the Emmy-winning docu-series Cheer will be among the featured athletes competing.
Cheerleading means everything to me, and I feel like cheerleading overall gives you so much life lessons just as an overall person, not just an athlete. It's like we've been bred to be mentally tough, physically tough, self-driven, disciplined, hardworking, loyal.
And Gabi joins us ahead of the event, which kicks off tomorrow. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wow. Great to see you. Okay, I heard you say cheer means everything to me. But how it all started was a hard no. You were more interested in gymnastics, which we see elements of gymnastics in cheer, but you're like, nope, gonna be a gymnast.
Yes, I was originally supposed to do gymnastics, and my mom was like, I think you would be really good at cheer. And I'm like, I don't really know. But I fell in love with it the second they put me up in the air. And as a flyer, I was just hooked.
Yeah, you were just gonna try it out because your mom was forcing you. She's like, you're gonna try this, okay? And you're like, okay, but no promises, no guarantees, and now we know there is a guarantee. The great thing about your story is that it's kind of the same story we see with a lot of great athletes. We assume that they've always been good. We look at where they are, not know what it took for them to get there, and that's part of the journey and the story, which makes sports and athletes, I think, so amazing. You weren't a natural at first. You had issues with things. Even though you were in gymnastics, you had issues with things with cheer.
I definitely was not the best one. Out of all my teammates, I was actually one of the worst ones on the team. And I had to work, like I had to go and just grind it out like as much as possible, and just practice.
Yeah. Did you ever think about giving up?
I did, yeah. I definitely was like, maybe this isn't my sport. And
maybe you should be in band. Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah. And I just one day, I think a mindset of mine, just like the switch in my brain was like, you know what, like nothing in life comes easy. Yeah. If you want something, you have to work for it.
Yeah, we've heard, several times how Kobe Bryant would say, or Michael Jordan would say, even after a game, they go and just make baskets. And then people are like, why are you doing this? Because I want to be the best.
Yeah.
You were in the gym daily, 3:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. The first one in, the last one out, and even on holidays. And you would get mad if Miss Jones had to close the gym for Christmas Day. You're like, why?
I know. I was like a gym rat, and I still am, and it's crazy because now I'm 20 years later, like still, my mom still yells at me like, you're gonna overwork yourself, and I'm like, but that's what it takes. It takes all that work and dedication to be the best.
By the time you were 12, you had some major exposure on YouTube, which you were that era where now you can spread that message and what you're doing to so many more people. You started to get recognized at competitions by fans, and that was kind of foreign to you because people come up and say, I want your autograph. You're like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and it's crazy because it all happened so fast. And I think, when I was little, I was 12 years old and people were coming up to me and like, hey, can we get your autograph? And at first I'm like, do you want me to sign my name or your name? Like, I didn't know what that meant. And it's just crazy to watch how much cheer has evolved. And I think that's what I'm so excited about, is just like being able to grow up and see how much it's changed, and in such a positive way.
You had to make some grown-up decisions, and one of those was, how much are you going to put into this? Because there's a point where regular school life kind of gets in the way, and so you dealt with homeschooling, right? And then you had to move at one point to move to where you needed to be to excel.
Yes, I actually left. I'm from Florida, so I left home at 14 years old to go move all the way across the country to cheer on a team called California All-Stars SMOED. And it was one of the hardest teams I've ever, it was like literally being in the military. Like we had hours and hours of practice, and we conditioned like soldiers, like military soldiers. Cheerleading is not for the weak.
Yeah.
It's definitely
well,
not.
I think that we can all agree on when we see it. You did the Netflix series Cheer,
Yes.
and so you already had a level of fame within your ranks, but now there are people who may not ever be taking part in Cheer, but they saw you as a celebrity. And as we know, celebrity can come with good things, it can come with bad things. How did you handle and balance that? Because sometimes that can get in your head.
Yeah. So especially on social media, I think social media nowadays, it's a blessing and a curse. And I think for the longest time, like in the past, I used to have, I could have 100 positive comments and then that one negative one really harp on that. And as I've gotten older, I think I've just realized, you know what, like at the end of the day, people are going to say whatever they're going to say about you. So why try to please other people?
Yeah.
The only person I'm trying to please is the Lord, the man upstairs.
There you go, amen. After that, we're all done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the public perception of a cheerleader always is that you're happy. And it's like, you'd be on the sidelines, and it's like, okay, your team is losing 150-0. It's like, no, you can do it. No, you can do it, right?
Yes,
right?
you've had to keep that like positive, uplifting spirit for
But
sure.
sometimes you just don't feel great, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to have that smile on. But so do you feel like you have to put it on when you're outside, or do you feel comfortable now of just being kind of yourself?
Honestly, I definitely try to, any situation I have, I always try to make people feel uplifted, good about themselves, positive, and just confident. Like, I feel like a lot of these cheerleaders, like they can be really hard on themselves. And because of the social media, like they can have a lot of just negative things to say. But I really try to make it a positive environment for all these little, especially the little ones growing up. Like, we just want to make cheerleading a positive light and a good culture to be in.
Right. Sport versus performance. I know you touched on a number of those things, but it's growing, and having competitions like this is one of those things that is giving people pause to stop and think, if they didn't think it was a sport, that it really is.
Yes, and honestly, it's crazy because I have argued with people like, oh, it's a sport. No, it's not a sport. And I'm like, you guys just need to come to one of our practices and come watch for yourselves. And speaking of,
I'm already tired after watching that. Yeah.
And speaking of, we actually have one of our Pro League matches Friday at the Toyota Center. And I am stoked. This is our third match, and Varsity is hosting it. And they've actually made it possible for us to do things like this because we never had a professional cheer league. We never had anything.
And the great thing is that it gives people the opportunity to go beyond college now. When you have a professional, you can go beyond those years of college of doing cheer. It's the largest weekend in all-star cheerleading. And when we say sport versus performance, requires strength, skill, endurance. And although it's very entertaining, competing pushes it into a sports space, right? Governed by the national organizations with standardized scoring, recognized as a sport by many state athletic associations, and competitive cheer is judged, scored, regulated, and demands elite athleticism. Sounds like a sport to me. All right. So what can people expect to see when they go there? Because it's going to be really exciting.
So what you can expect to see at a match is just a lot of craziness. There's going to be a lot of intensity, high skills performed at elite levels, like a lot of athleticism, and just honestly well-rounded athletes who are super trained, and just a lot of excitement. Like, there's a lot of twists and turns, and I feel like overall the hype of it, you just have to be there.
Yeah, and I don't, speaking of having to be there, that your dad's like, I just have to be there when he comes on. So your dad is dealing with some health issues. Hi, Dad, how are you? But you have, once you realize that this was so important to her, I just want you to speak to the importance of parents being there and being supportive and leaning in to that desire.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the role of any parent is obviously to support your child as best it can. And cheerleading requires that. You find that out as a cheerleader very quick. You gotta be fully in it, otherwise you're gonna get left behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, watching Gabi today is a very special day. Seeing her come here announced this partnership with Varsity is a very special day because she's worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
So to see her achieve this is a very rewarding thing as a parent who's worked for many years and just tries to support in the best way I can.
And Gabi has said that's what's kept her balanced and her between her faith and her parents. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you. So great to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
The NCAA All-Star National Championship kicks off this weekend, but the first ever Pro Cheer League match takes place tomorrow evening at the Toyota Center. The event starts at 5:30 and tickets are still available. For tickets or more information, visit toyotacenter.com. By the way, cheer is officially recognized by the International Olympic Committee as a sport, so it's eligible for inclusion, but that has not happened yet. We'll see what happens by the 2028 Summer Games. Hopefully you're there. All right.